Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, Gombe commercial motorcycle rider who lost eye to thugs attack demands justice. Court asked to halt Tinubu's inauguration, extend Buhari's tenure as Peter Obi insists he will be Nigeria's president. NBC to appeal court order restraining fine imposition on broadcast stations. And on the foreign scene, United Nations Human Rights Report says at least 500 people believed to have died in Mali village massacre in 2022. Hello and welcome to News Hour on Trust TV. I am Sagir Ibrahim. Now the news in detail. A 34-year-old Okada rider has lost one eye after he was attacked by suspected gangs in Gombe metropolis. The Okada operator was attacked while trying to rescue his neighbor from suspected hoodlums who attacked the area. The father of four said life has been very difficult after losing one eye and four fingers in the incident. He is calling on security operatives to investigate the matter and bring the perpetrators to justice. Trust TV's Ibrahim Ismail reports.
The 34-year-old Gombe-based Okada operator was attacked after he joined his friends to rescue a victim of gang attack in their neighborhood. Sadly, he turned out to be the victim. The attackers used machetes and knives and wounded Ibrahim on his face. He lost his right eye and four fingers on his right arm.
Da suka shigo anguwan suna saran mutane, suka shiga shaguna suka ɗebi kayayyakin mutane da sauransu.
Some thugs attacked our neighborhood and looted shops. The following day, they attacked again.
Na da daga aikin a cabana na ajiye mashin a cikin gida sai muka ji ihu. To mu yan wannan area.
When I returned from my Okada work, I heard someone screaming. We went to rescue him. They removed one of my eyes and cut my fingers.
Suka sare ni a kayina, suka fasa min ido, suka cire min hannu.
Ibrahim, who has a wife and four children, is struggling to cater for his family because of the injuries he sustained during the attack. The victim, who now lives with his mother, is demanding for justice as his family is concerned that the suspected attackers were not arrested more than a month after the incident. His children are with their mother, who returned to her parents because he has nowhere to stay. That is why he is in my room. The victim's family admitted that they did little to reach out to the police to investigate the matter and arrest the perpetrators. Commenting on the issue, Nigeria Police Gombe State Command said failure of the victim's family to lodge an official complaint hinders the police from arresting the suspect.
Then you will not find them again. You will not see them. What you will only hear is blame. Blaming the police for not arresting the suspects. How do you expect the policeman to know the people that carried out this act on you if without reporting, without telling them some of the clues that the person resembles so? Yes, I know the person. No, I don't know the person. You are the one to give all this information.
Ibrahim, who is in pain due to the lost one eye, hopes that security agencies will guarantee the people's safety.
Kuma yaran ba wai ba a san su ba, yaran an san su, an san iyayensu.
We know the thugs and their parent. I want them to be punished. Their parents should compensate me for losing an eye and fingers. This is my problem.
In ma ba a kama su ba, a kama iyayensu su biya ni diyan idona da hannuna. Shine babban abun da yafi damuna.
Gombe has been battling with violence from thugs known as Kalare Boys, who have been unleashing mayhem on unsuspecting members of the public. Security operatives have, however, assured that the activities of the group will be curtailed to guarantee security of lives and property. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
A pan-northern group, the Democratic Research Institute, DRI, has said the region producing the 10th Assembly Senate President is not negotiable. The chairman and secretary DRI, Professor Tukur Mohammed Baba, and Dr. Benjamin Isra Diki, while reading the communique at the end of a one-day roundtable on nation building and democracy, also demanded a fair share of ministerial and other appointments. They said such appointments should take cognizance of competence, integrity, and track record. Otherwise, the region is left with no option than to de-invest its support for the government and the party in subsequent elections. According to the group, percentage of votes across the 6 geopolitical zones shows that the Northwest carries the largest percentage of votes, with 2,652,235 representing 30% and 63.5% contribution of the North. DRI said based on the contributions of the North in the just concluded general elections, transformation and development of the region is hinged on its stake in government, particularly access to political, economic incentives and opportunities. Some residents of the Federal Capital Territory have asked a federal high court in Abuja to stop the inauguration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The residents, represented by Anyagbonam Okoye, David Adza, Jeffrey Uche, Osang Paul and Chibuike Nwachukwu, are seeking a court order restraining the Chief Justice of Nigeria and any judicial officer or any authority from swearing in any candidate in the February 25th presidential election as president or vice president. They argued that the provision of Section 134, subsection 2b of the Nigerian Constitution is such that candidates must fulfill the requirements of the law. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, had declared Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress, APC, winner of the February 25th presidential poll. Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and Peter Obi of Labour Party, who came second and third respectively, are currently challenging Tinubu's victory in court. Also, President Muhammadu Buhari and his family have moved into the glass house at the presidential villa in Abuja ahead of the inauguration of the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This was disclosed by the First Lady Aisha Buhari via a video shared on her official Instagram page after taking the incoming First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu around the State House. During the tour of the villa, Mrs. Buhari introduced Senator Tinubu to the various areas of the house, providing detailed explanations regarding the history and importance of each edifice. According to the First Lady, the glass house has served as a transitional abode for the outgoing president and their spouse during the transition period. It provides a symbolic and literal space for the outgoing president, leaving room for the incoming president to fully take charge. While stating that she and her husband have moved into the iconic residence, Mrs. Buhari urged succeeding governments to maintain the practice of having the outgoing president and his spouse to reside in the glass house till transitions are over. She further stressed that she believes God Almighty would help her make positive impact and build upon the legacy of Mrs. Buhari.
We thank the Almighty Allah that God has shown us end of our tenure, and today I've taken the incoming First Lady, distinguished Senator Oluremi Tinubu. I've taken her around. She has seen the main house, and then we are now at the popular glass house. Glass house is a transitional home for the outgoing president. I'm advising that the glass house should maintain its tradition of being a transition for the outgoing presidents. As I'm talking to you now, we are residing here with my husband, only two of us here. I think it has to remain so as a norm of the institution and of the house.
I've gone around and she's magnanimously showed me around the house and graciously explained a lot of things to me, which is quite a short time and quite overwhelming for me to grasp. But I believe that, God will help me, and then, we will be able to make impactful contributions to the nation.
Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has declared that he will be president of Nigeria. The former governor of Anambra State made the declaration on Friday at a book presentation entitled Peter Obi, Many Voices, One Perspectives in Awka, Anambra State capital. The book presentation was designed to raise funds to enable Obi pursue his case at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Obi also said that he would respect whatever is the decision of courts in the ongoing election litigation, urging his supporters to do the same. He, however, said he will continue in the struggle for a better Nigeria. Conduct of elections in a plural society like Nigeria is often characterized by animosities, malice, and violence. To reverse the trend ahead of the governorship election in 3 states later this year, stakeholders in election matters suggest ways forward with accurate data on violence recorded during the 2023 election. Noor Samson has more of the details.
Governorship election in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa states is few months away. But learning from the 2023 general elections, stakeholders say identifying the causes of electoral violence and ways of mitigating them is important.
The general elections, as they have reported, was relatively peaceful, according to their report. And from what we know as journalists, that the election was relatively peaceful, even more peaceful than the 2019 general elections. You saw it in their report. The cases reported, tracked during this election was lower. The record was lower to that of 2019. So that is an achievement in terms of being peaceful.
Most importantly, what we need to do to party talks, to power of incumbency, to finance of election violence, because we have seen from the data that it takes resources to finance election violence. So again, we also seen that, look, we have to do better in terms of arrest, in terms of being proactive and not reactive, in terms of making use of intelligence report to curb electoral violence.
The electoral violence is the deliberate use of force to attain political power. So in Nigeria, we have seen that a lot of politicians incite this kind of violence to ensure that they grab power by all means.
Furthermore, ways in which electoral violence could be stopped or brought to a minimum are highlighted.
Our advice and we are already shouting it now, is that the security agencies need to be proactive. They need to begin to go and mop up all this proliferation of these light arms in those states. They need to take it off. They need to look at the perpetrators of violence as we have placed them today. Greater percentage of them are the political thugs.
INEC is taking the issue of electoral offences very seriously. Very, very seriously. And it won't be like before, that people will just commit an offense and it will go away. No, we started with our own staff, the Rex, for instance.
One good way is to leverage the available data to see areas, flashpoints where this violence occurred. When you leverage data, you see the specific locations where this occurred, and then you see you define the kind of violence. Is it that there are people who are known to cause this violence? Like, for example, are there thugs, particular thugs who are known every electoral year, you see them performing the same acts of violence?
Electoral violence do not only undermine the electoral process, but also undermines civil and political rights of citizens in any given society. Noor Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Away from that, the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, said it will appeal the Federal High Court order, which restrained it from imposing fines on broadcast stations. Justice James Omotosho, while ruling in a suit filed by incorporated trustees of Media Rights Agenda, held that NBC lacked the power to impose fines on broadcast stations. Reacting to the judgment, the NBC, in a statement signed by its Director General, Balarabe Ilela, said it had applied for a certified copy of the judgment. Ilela said the Commission would appeal against the judgment when found in conflict with previous judgments of the court, which empowers the Commission to regulate broadcasting in Nigeria. Justice Omotosho voided the 500,000 naira fine imposed on 45 broadcast stations on March 1, 2019, on the grounds that NBC, not being a court of law, lacked such power. Opportunities in leather tanning value chain are diminishing as the business is facing challenges from several directions. For many years, leather industries in Nigeria have provided jobs for hundreds, if not thousands, of people, but the numbers are now going low. In this special report, Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin takes a look at the leather value chain and its contributions to the economy of Kano.
The Nigerian leather value chain typically starts from the farmers who rear the animals, butchers who peel the animal skin, local agent and service providers who buy and sell the animal skin to traditional or industrial tanneries.
There are two types of goat skin in Nigeria. There is the Sokoto red and Kano brown. They have the best leather quality in the whole of this world. There is nowhere you can find this quality. To the extent that when we used to export it before the port authority or before going through Lagos, it was going through Sahara trade, Trans-Sahara trade, and it goes through Morocco. And when it reaches Europe, they will say Moroccan leather. Okay. But really, it is not Moroccan leather, it is Kano leather.
According to experts, Nigeria's leather, mostly sourced from Kano and other states in the northwest, ranks among the highest quality of leather found globally, which is also being exported internationally, with the country generating about $800 million annually.
Before, we used to have a lot of indigenous, but now there are not up to 4 or 3 indigenous, solely indigenous.
That are functioning.
They are functioning and functioning happily.
Not full capacity.
Not full capacity. But the ones that are in full capacity and which tend to get all the support are owned by half Nigerians.
Kano tanneries like this one are the beginning point in the leather producing value chain. The tanneries receives hides and skins that have been stripped from slain animals and take them through the tanning process until they become leather for export or local industrial use.
This business is very lucrative, but the government have to intervene to assist the tanneries, because like this one is a tannery who owned by indigenous. Before, for 10 years or 15 years back, all the tanneries were owned by the foreigners, most of them Lebanese and China.
Over the years, however, the leather industry in Kano have been neglected. Many tanneries closed down, owing to inadequate capital, the lack of electricity supply, among other challenges.
Nigeria is a country of 200 million people. So if at all we say now we are going to cater for only half of that population to make shoe for them, then you should know that it's a Herculean tax that Nigeria has to face. Because now what we are having now in Nigeria is that we don't have enough capacity to produce for our own country. And that is why there is so much foreign input into Nigeria. And that foreign input into Nigeria is depriving our people from finding jobs. Like now, there are hundreds of people working in this place. If he has not settled the tannery, nobody will be there.
It's been projected that the Nigerian leather industry will generate over $1 billion by 2025. But experts believe that unless sustainable government intervention is provided, this projection will be far from being achieved. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Thanks to Idris for that report. Moving on, the Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society has applauded the federal government for working hard towards eliminating illegal mining in the country. Speaking during a courtesy visit to the Media Trust Group, the president of the society, Professor Akiade Olatunji, said that ensuring all mining organizations are formally documented as legal miners will help bring sanity to the industry. Olatunji calls on the government to continue to fund the mines and in an inspectorate division and involve more security to curtail the illegal mining activities, as it will contribute massively to the GDP. Also, flood occurs almost annually in many parts of the country, causing unimaginable loss of human lives and property. Nigeria Meteorological Services, NIMET, makes periodic weather predictions to alert citizens on the impending danger. In this report, Trust TV's Kabir Lawal speaks to some residents of Abuja on how they utilize these predictions to avert damaging effects of flood. Take a look.
NIMET in recent prediction said strong winds are likely to precede the rains in some northern states, advising people to be cautious and prepare for heavy rainfall. Some Abuja residents said since the FCT is part of areas covered by the prediction, it is left for people living in areas prone to flood to pay attention to the advisory commending NIMET for being proactive.
This has become more of a routine, year in, year out. We wake up every, season like this to prediction from NIMET and other, agencies like hydrological agencies and what have you. And the advice has always been to be warned. Things might happen. And taking such, advices for granted has put us where we are today.
Those who are in places where they know there is usually flood, they should also watch out and if possible relocate when they ask them to relocate. I'll say for so many other people, we also have different I'll say measures we need to put in place. Those who need not to go out during the rain should not go out. Those who feel it's better for them to go and start renovating their roofing sheets and the likes. I know we saw rain yesterday and some of us saw signs of what our roofing sheet should look like. So I think everybody should start preparing so that the disaster doesn't become what is going to be far, far much more than what we expect.
Some residents, however, said the government must do all within its powers to protect the people. The government needs to help the people because most of those staying in the flood-prone areas don't have any means of living there. It's because they don't have money. The government should come out and please help those who stay in the flood-prone areas as a matter of urgency.
The government should wake up. Let me tell you, some of the people that are staying in those places that flood to attack people, it's not their wish. Many of them, it's not their wish. But the fact remains is that they have no options. And we have government. Some of these people they are occupying, there are ways that government can drill the gutter or make ways for the water to go. Those people can live there. Or if you have government that is working, you could relocate them, give them another better place.
The Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, said about 24,713 inhabitants in 3 of the 6 area councils of the FCT were affected by the last year flood. Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Some parents in Abuja have explained why Sudan is attractive for sponsorship of children to pursue higher education. They said disruptive academic calendar, often by strikes, motivates many to send their children outside the country to study. Zainab Karai has more.
Estimated population of Nigerian students in Wharton, Sudan is more than 5,000. The attraction for many is that the Sudanese culture and civilization are almost similar. Tuition and cost of living are also affordable. Some parents, however, said lack of good governance and neglect of the education sector is the reason why seek alternative elsewhere.
So a lot of parents will want to make sure that their children are outside so that they can study, because it can be a situation where a child will have a 4 or 3 year course in Nigeria because of incessant strike or one thing or the other. He can spend like 5 years or 6 years in the university to pursue the same course that if he goes outside will spend just like 3 years or 4 years. And so the government has it. I tell you, the government should, as a matter of urgency, revive the educational system. In fact, it should be an emergency.
Let us do the right thing. We failed to do the right thing. That is what affected the system. So we have to wake up and do the right thing. I think that is the message to all the government officials. I remember when we are in primary school, there is a discipline. When we come to secondary school, there is a discipline. Unlike my headmaster then, if you fail as a government school, if you fail to enter for your lesson, he has some money he will deduct from your salary when we are having table payment. So, and that's what make all the staff to be very serious.
They said the ongoing conflict in Sudan is a clarion call for Nigerian government, as a matter of urgency, do the needful for the education sector.
They should revive the educational system. I have said that earlier, that the government should revive the education system. They should stop this private schools should be stopped. they should stop giving license to people to what do you call it? They should stop encouraging private schools. They should stop private schools. If the government ensures that every government school, every government school is well equipped, there's enough budget. I tell you, if you look at the budget for this year on education, you will weep for this country.
These things we're talking about now, the origin is not even from us. If you look at these politicians now, most of their children are not graduates of Nigerian universities. Most of them are outside country, Harvard University, not even Sudan. They go to the most beautiful schools in the world, the most known school in the world. So what do you expect the least privileged to do?
Many prefer to spend fortunes to send their children abroad to obtain higher degrees instead of attending public universities in Nigeria. Zainab Karaye, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Thanks to Zainab for that report. Also, a total of 2,246 Nigerians have so far been evacuated from Sudan. Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, has said. NIDCOM head of Media, Public Relations and Protocols Unit, Abdurrahman Balogun, stated this on Friday in Abuja while giving updates on the federal government's evacuation efforts since May 3rd. He said on May 3rd, 94 evacuees comprising 78 males and 16 females boarded NAF C-130 plane, while 274 boarded Air Peace plane from Aswan Airport in Egypt. Balogun said on May 5th, 130 Nigerians also boarded TACO airline, while on May 6th, 131 evacuees boarded the same airline from Port Sudan, with 102 boarding the same airline from Port Sudan on Sunday. He further said 410 Nigerians boarded Max Air and 322 boarded Asman Air, both flights from Aswan Airport on Sunday. You're watching News Hour on Trust TV. Still to come, we take a look at unlawful extortion, also called matching ground. This and more when we return. Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secured are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at English squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
That's great.
Welcome back. If you're just joining, you're watching News Hour on Trust TV. Now, recap of our major stories. Gombe commercial motorcycle rider who lost eye to thugs attack demands justice. And court asked to halt Tinubu's inauguration, extend Buhari's tenure as Peter Obi insists he will be Nigeria's president. Moving on, state directors of the Department of State Services are meeting in Kaduna to chart a roadmap to addressing security challenges ravaging the Northwest. The meeting agreed that successful security operation requires an enabling environment as well as collaboration among security agencies to tackle all forms of criminality in the country. Take a look.
Insurgency, cattle rustling, farmers-herders conflict, arms trafficking, and communal clashes in the Northwest geopolitical zone have become increasingly overwhelming for security operatives. The meeting of state directors of security in the 7 states of the Northwest is to identify gaps to address security challenges undermining the peace of the zone.
Cattle rustling, farmers-herders conflicts, arms trafficking, and communal crises. These acts of criminality cuts across the states of the Northwest. Hence, the justification for the intelligence sharing within the zone has improved tremendously, and by extension, its dissemination to end users, majorly sister agencies and the host state government.
And it is very necessary for the security agencies to intensify their collaborations and partnership so that solution will be brought. And I want us to collaborate more so that we can achieve our goals. Our goals is the same.
Speakers at the meeting harped on the need for collaboration, partnership, and synergy among the various security agencies to tackle insecurity in the Northwest zone.
It is my wish from the judiciary that solutions at the end of the conference will be found, and I promise that we will continue to do our job in the judiciary such that we address all the issues of security in Kaduna State.
Many northern states, not least our states in the Northwest, are confronting a unique set of security challenges. Criminal activities by bandits have threatened both rural and urban communities. Bandits have openly tried to crush the rural economy by attacking farmers in their fields and in their homes.
Personally, I can say it's terrific because almost all the time we receive intelligence report on what is happening around us, and we take strategic steps, to address such issues.
The meeting agreed that intelligence sharing among security agencies will help to curb criminal activities in the zone, and therefore the need for security agencies to continue to work together to tackle the monster of insecurity head-on. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
A 25-year-old woman who allegedly kidnapped her own daughter to demand ransom from her husband has been arrested by police in Kano. Addressing a news conference, the State Police Commissioner Mohammed Gumel told reporters that several other suspects were arrested in connections with various kidnapping activities in the state. Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin filed in this report.
25-year-old divorced Rahama Suleiman was arrested in Madobi local government after demanding a ransom of 3 million naira from her ex-husband for the release of his daughter.
In a follow-up investigation, the victim was rescued in Madobi local government. The divorced wife was arrested and confessed to have planned the kidnap, where she took her daughter to a hideout and demanded that sum of money, that is that 3 million naira.
2 days after I took the child, my parents asked me of her whereabouts. I told them I don't know. We then started looking for her. Still, I refused to say anything. In fact, I reported the incident to the police. The next day, my ex-husband came to the house and I informed him that I received a call from someone demanding 3 million naira for the release of our daughter, when in actual fact, nobody called me.
But Rahama's ex-husband Kabiru Shehu believes that his divorced wife's action was a human error and has in fact reinstated her back to his house. Since I married her, she has never done something like this to me. I believe this one was a mistake. And even though we are divorced, it's no more than 28 days. And I have reinstated her back to my house. Unlike Rahama, this 45-year-old Zainab Rabiu is being accused of aiding the kidnap of her brother in Dalaloku government area of the state.
Zainab Rabiu, female of 45 years old of Gomaja Quarters, a masterminder and an aunt to the victim that organized and arranged the kidnapping. The second suspect is Abdurrashid Saidu, 27 years old. The third suspect is Hassan Abdullahi, also 24 years old, and Ahmed Saleh, 25 years old, all of Sheikha Quarters in Kano City. All suspects confessed to the commission of the crime and will be charged upon completion of investigation.
According to the command, one suspect was shot dead by his syndicate member in the process of a kidnap operation in Tofa local government.
In an attempt to shoot the son, they shot their colleague, one Umar Abdullahi alias Tambaba, who died on the spot.
Other suspects arrested include one Ashiru Muhammad with a large quantity of dried leaves suspected to be Indian hemp, 4 suspected kidnappers from Tudunwada, and 3 others in Rana local government area of the state. Idris Jubrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Still in security, police in Kwara State have arrested a medical doctor, Ayodele Joseph, for allegedly raping a patient after sedation in Ilorin. The victim, a nurse who was said to have set up a recording for her proposed surgery, only to discover through the recording that she was raped after she became unconscious. Briefing newsmen at the police command, Commissioner of Police Paul Odama disclosed that the claim was corroborated by a medical examination on the victim. The accused, Dr. Ayodele Joseph, claimed that the victim was his girlfriend for 8 years. He described the incident as a setup by the victim to extort money from him.
Before the sedation, fearing any mishap, the patient activated her telephone and placed in a vantage position to record the surgery unknown to the doctor before the expected surgery. She woke up from sleep after the surgery to find herself fully naked. And when reviewing the recorded video, she discovered that the said Dr. Ayodele Joseph had an unlawful sexual intercourse with her while she was under sedation and unconscious. Investigation led to the recovery of the video recording of the sexual action of the said doctor on the victim, which was also corroborated by the medical examination conducted on the victim.
The allegation is not true at all, because the lady set me up, and the lady is in a position to now wanting to confess. And by the time I bring the letter, the lady wrote, because he is collecting ransom. He is doing that to collect ransom from us. She has collected close to 500,000 naira from us. So definitely is a kind of a setup to try and collect ransom. How could you imagine someone of that nature that I train? I'm the one that trained him to become a nurse. I trained her to become a nurse. I sponsor her to go to one school of nursing in Lagos. So she graduated from that school of nursing, came back to me, employed her, working with me. And the only thing that looked shady there is the fact that I was befriending her.
Also, police in Osun State have arrested a suspected notorious serial killer, Said Wasiu, popularly known as K Federal, who murdered for the murder of over 20 people. The suspect, who belongs to Eye Confraternity's secret court, was arrested in Ede Town by men of the Special Anti-Cultism Unit of the State Police Command. Hamid Oyegbade files a report.
Around Alushekere area in Ede town, men of the Special Anti-Cultism Unit of Osun State Police Command pinned down Said Wasiu, popularly known as K Fedra, and arrested him. Wasiu is one of the deadly members of the dreaded Eye confraternity secret cult terrorizing the state. He confessed that his gang killed 20 people and dumped their corpses inside Osun River. We have killed up to 20 people. We dumped their corpses inside Osun River. The police public relations officer for Osun State Police Command, Yemisi Opalola, appealed to residents to always assist police with useful information on criminal activities.
As the Commissioner of Police, Osun State Police Command, CP Kehinde Patrick Longe, that he is going to work and is going to ensure that criminals leave this state completely, and is working towards what he has promised.
Also, a 24-year-old lady, Olayemi Lawrence, was arrested for impersonating a police officer to defraud people in Osogbo. Similarly, two men, Naim Shegun and Suraju Isiaka, were arrested with 15 goats they stole in Osun, and the suspects confessed that they were on their way to Lagos to sell the goats when they were arrested by policemen. We came from Lagos, from mile 12. We stole these goats between Gbongan and Ila. We were going back to Lagos to sell the goats when policemen arrested us.
I went to a POS operator and ordered him that I am a police officer. I told him to follow me to a place and then took his money.
The police spokesperson said all the suspects will be charged to court after diligent investigation. Hamid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
Also, gunmen have killed a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress APC in Mangu local government area of Plateau State, John Mekel, and his son. The politician was killed in his residence at Bure village of Halle Ward. His wife and another son, who were shot at the stomach and leg, escaped with gunshot wounds and are receiving medical attention at Allah Na Nakowa Hospital in Mangu Local Council. A community leader, Dan Mangu, who is an uncle of the victim, confirmed that the attack occurred at around 8 p.m. in Bure village on Wednesday. He said the gunmen forcefully gained entrance into the house and opened fire on them in the parlor, killing him and his son. Daily Trust learned that security has been deployed to the community to restore calm. John and his son were buried on Thursday afternoon amid tension in the village. Also, land developers in Makurdi are lamenting unlawful extortion called Marching Ground from local miscreant. Jimmy Adzande reports that a chain of young people organized themselves in every community to carry out the act. The report.
What I understand about Marching Ground is a relationship between somebody who is coming to stay in the community, is for him to relate with the area people where he's intend to come and stay. And if you are coming to any domain, you will have to go to the chief, and the chief, you will get relationship between you and the chief and that particular area that you want to go and stay.
It is now common in every community, especially new layouts in Makurdi, where land developers are forced to cough out money before they are allowed to build a house. Some residents said it is unlawful and should not be allowed to continue.
Over time, there have been political talks. So when the idea of political talks was subdued and made to rest, I think they instead of going out of business, they came up with collecting Marching Ground. So sometimes it's the people in the community, the youth in the community, or sometimes even the community leaders as well, gatekeepers as well, also are in the form of collecting this Marching Ground at the community level. And as a person who lives in Makurdi and also worked in Makurdi, most of the communities that I have worked in or have stayed in Makurdi, the idea of matching ground is a very, I don't know, it's a concept that brings a community down or takes a community to its lowest. Development doesn't come to those communities.
The residents also said authorities in the state must rise to the occasion and nip it in the bud before it gets out of hand.
I'm one person that I was putting up a structure somewhere in North Bank. They repeatedly come to threaten the workers in the field. And to my greatest surprise, they have the support of our traditional ruler. I don't know where it has started. That thing needs to be discouraged. If we are serious, we need to encourage people who have decided to come and develop our place. Aside from what you pay legally, they come when you are erecting a structure in a site that you must pay that fee. If you have to erect a borehole, you understand they have a specific amount to collect. If that borehole is costing you, I think 400,000, 10% of it must be paid to them. If not, you'll not be able to. We've seen this thing.
There is, however, suspicion that the act is supported by very influential members of the society who play behind-the-scene roles for self-seeking reasons. The residents said if not checked, many land developers will run away from the state capital for their inability to meet up with the marching ground.
This is Trust News Hour. We'll be back shortly.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. You're watching News Hour on Trust TV. Let's now join Chiamaka Wafo for business news.
Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria's weekly international payments show that the federal government spent $112.35 million servicing external debt in January 2023. The amount spent in January was 146.17% higher than the $45.64 million spent in December of 2022. This occurred as the federal government struggled to boost its revenue base despite its revenue generation efforts. In 2022, Nigeria spent $2.4 billion to service its external debt, which was a slight increase from the $2.11 billion spent in 2021. The Central Bank of Nigeria has released a new guideline for exporters repatriating export proceeds under a rebate scheme. In a circular to all authorized dealers, the CBN Director, Trade and Exchange Department, O.S.N. Naji, directed that export of products in their raw form will now be eligible for rebate. He said a rebate amount of 25 naira for every $1 repatriated and sold on the investors and exporters window for third-party use shall apply, while 15 naira for every $1 repatriated and sold on the investors and exporters window for own use shall apply. According to the policy implementation guideline, which has already taken effect, the payment of the graduated rebate amount is expected to encourage exporters of primary products, enhance the capacity, and eventually engage in value added exports. The CBN said the new move is in furtherance to the circular dated February 25, 2022 entitled Operating Guidelines for RT200 Non-Oil Export Proceeds Repatriation Rebate Scheme. The federal government has announced the approval of the Nigeria Investment Policy and the adoption of a new National Automotive Industry Development Plan from 2023 to 2033. The Nigerian Investment Policy Plan will be the first ever approved by the FG. This was disclosed in a statement by the Trade Minister Otumba Adeniyi Adebayo. Adebayo informed that the National Investment Policy and the Automotive Industry Development Plan were given the necessary approval at the Federal Executive Council. The minister added that the 2023 to 2033 Automotive Development Plan will enable Nigeria to migrate seamlessly from combustible engines into electric solar-powered engines.
Thank you, Chiamaka, for business news. Now, on the foreign scene, the United Nations on Friday said that Malian troops and foreign military personnel were responsible for the death of over 500 people, mostly civilians, during a military operation in the village of Mura in March 2022. The damning report released by the UN Human Rights Office is based on extensive interviews with victims and witnesses, as well as forensic evidence and satellite imagery. The report highlights the grave human rights abuses committed during the 5-day operation. Releasing the report, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, said these are extremely disturbing findings. Summary executions, rape and torture during armed conflicts amounts to war crimes and could, depending on the circumstances, amount to crime against humanity. Despite request, Malian authorities denied access to the village for the UN fact-finding team, further raising concerns about accountability and transparency. Witnesses said military helicopters fired upon villagers while troops corralled people into the village center and indiscriminately shot at those attempting to escape. The report called for a thorough investigation and prosecution of those responsible for the heinous crimes. The fact-finding team from the UN said it obtained extensive personal identification details, including the names of at least 238 of the victims. And in sports, Nigeria's Flying Eagles will take on Colombia and an Argentine local club side, Almirante Brown, in friendly games ahead of the 2023 FIFA Under-20 World Cup. The Nigeria Football Federation (NFF) disclosed this on their Twitter handle on Friday. The Flying Eagles will take on Almirante Brown on Friday night before facing Colombia on Tuesday, May 16, after the two friendly games. The Flying Eagles will then depart Buenos Aires to Mendoza, venue of their Group D fixtures. The Flying Eagles will begin their campaign at the World Cup against debutant Dominican Republic on Sunday, May 21st. The second game is against Italy on May 24th, while on May 27th they will face Brazil. Ladan Boso's side finished third at the CAF Under-20 World AFCON, which was held in Egypt. Nigeria finished second twice at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in 1989 and 2005. Also, Lionel Messi will return to Paris Saint-Germain's starting lineup on Saturday for the first time since making an unauthorized trip to Saudi Arabia. The Argentine captain was initially suspended by the club for 2 weeks for the trip, which followed PSG's home defeat by Lorient on 30th of April. The Ligue 1 leaders, who have suffered 3 defeats in their past 4 home games, face AC Ajaccio on Saturday. Messi, who has a role as a tourism ambassador for Saudi Arabia, apologized to his teammates last Friday for making the unauthorized trip. The 35-year-old returned to training on Monday, having been left out of the squad for their 3-1 win at Troyes the previous day. Messi is set to leave PSG when his contract expires in the end of the summer. Let's now join Adeniyi Ajisafe for more in sports.
In a bid to harmonize fixtures in the 2 groups of 2022-2023 Nigerian Premier Football League (NPFL) season, The Interim Management Committee (IMC) has rescheduled matchday 18 games slated for the weekend to be played on 24th May 2023. IMC Chairman Gbenga Elegbeleye said the decision is to ensure regular season conclusion on same date before the commencement of Super 6 that will hold in Lagos to determine the champion of the league. And in rugby, Nigerian Rugby Football Federation (NRFF) has appointed Steve Lewis as head coach of the senior national rugby teams. Nigerian Rugby Federation's president Ademola Are made this known following the readmittance of Nigeria into the international scene by World Rugby. Steve's first assignment will be to lead the national men's and women's sevens teams to 2024 Olympic Games pre-qualifiers in Mauritius and Zambia in June and July 2023 respectively, as first activities of Nigerian rugby on international scene since 2019. 12 countries will be in Mauritius to compete for 4 slots in African Cup Sevens, slated for Zimbabwe in September, while African women's teams converge in Zambia to compete for 3 slots in African Women's Cup Sevens, slated for Tunisia in October 2023. Black Stallions of Nigeria qualified for Glasgow Commonwealth Games in 2014 under Steve Lewis. That's Sport News. I'm Adini Ajishafe.
Thank you, Adini Ajishafe, for Sports News. With that, we've come to the end of News Hour on Trust TV. Do well to follow us across all of our media platforms. I'm Sagir Ibrahim, and on behalf of the crew, good night.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.